What can I say? I'll say what I usually say for class. My name is Hector Kriete, ceramic artist. I started, I guess, playing with clay since I was in Colombia, and I remember I was like 4 or 5 years old the first time I touched clay. I remember I was making something like what I thought was a dinosaur, but maybe it was just a rock with spikes. And we actually fired it in a fire pit. And then we got it like the next day, and I realized like, okay, I made a rock. This is awesome. I fell in love with it. Ever since, like, I've always dabbled with some kind of clay. When I moved to the US, I landed in a high school that had, at the time, 6 ceramic studios in the high school.
Wow.
Palos Verdes Peninsula High School. I don't know what it was, but if you were not a surfer or a potter, you were a loser. For real. So everybody kind of went into pottery or surfing of some kind of sport, and pottery was definitely my thing. I became obsessed with it. It's not the only thing I've done. I try to go into it in school, but every teacher kind of told me like, hey, that's probably the worst idea you could ever have, especially my ceramics teacher, who I love very much. I guess his experience was just like a shrinking industry, and he, said you should do graphic design. So I ended up doing liberal arts, a little bit of graphic design, and then chasing money for a while, or stability, more than once really, and somehow always got pushed back into clay. And clay just always made me feel like, okay, it's gonna work out. Even though it never really made me any kind of money, somehow it just felt like the community, I had everything I needed, so it made sense for me always. Then I moved to Austin, Texas in 2016, working for Whole Foods Market back then. I thought I had a career.
What, Whole Foods?
Yeah. I transferred working for Whole Foods, and then in my way transferring here, when I arrived, they're like, oh, guess what? Your position has been eliminated. You get to keep your pay, but now you need to go back to the store. What? So it kind of pushed me out, and it was about the best thing that could have happened. I found Sunset Canyon. I started just volunteering for like a year and a half. And little by little, I think the main thing that really helped me was like selling at festivals and shows. My first one was right out of high school. I used to make a lot of planters for my mom, and she was in a cactus and succulents club. And I remember her telling me like, oh, people sell pottery there. Maybe you can apply and see if you can get in. I did. Had a ton of planters. And I sold everything for like $1. I think the most expensive planter I had was like $10. It was huge, right? So I sold out. I made like 800 and something dollars out of like $1 planters. Why? Because in high school the clay was free, the firing was free, and my time was free. Really. When I applied the next year again, they were like, we'll let you in again, but you can't have those prices. Everybody complained that you were just giving away planters. So I adjusted the prices to match everyone, and of course I did not sell anywhere near as well. But it taught me that like, oh, I think I can make money out of this. So I did a lot of shows out there, just kind of like hustling, not really making any kind of money, but again, I was living with my mom. I had the privilege to just waste a lot of time, I guess. When I moved out here, I started doing more shows and kind of taking it a little bit more seriously with some of the experience that I had working for Whole Foods, like thinking about like, okay, price points, who do I want to sell to? Am I going to focus on this? Am I going to focus on that? Tried a little bit of everything. Got a lot of advice, and I think my advice to everyone is try everything, because something works. And funny enough, the shows that a lot of potters told me, oh, I would never do pecan street fest. Like, ugh, you don't make any money. I did that show for 8 years in a row, twice a year. And I mean, my bills are not very high. So to me, I was making money at Pecan Street Fest and doing pretty well in my eyes, but because my cost of living was pretty low. Yeah, and just continued ever since. Now I've opened a studio. I've, made a decent living. I bought a little bit of land. I bought a trailer house. I've been able to like fix it up. I have a studio at home. It seems almost unreal because for so long, like everyone told me there is no money in ceramics. Just figured it out, You just got to keep going. It's a little bit about me. If you guys have any questions, please. It makes it a little bit less nerve-wracking and start asking questions. So, anything before I get started? Oh, you guys want me to be nervous?
Doing at Sunset Canyon? What was your volunteer tasks?
Oh, everything. I started mainly recycling clay. Of course, that's like what nobody wants to do in the studio, so it's where you start. Loading kilns for a very long time, glazing, and then finally throwing. Yep, so almost everything.
Do you have any kind of a ritual that you do before you get started?
Yes, I do believe that I have to feel good before I get started, or I just waste a lot of time. I've noticed that. So I kind of check in with myself. Nowadays, I ask my wife, like, can you take Mateo or my son somewhere? Because, he definitely demands a lot of attention. But also just like putting my phone away, anything that can distract me or make me feel a little stressed, I try to stretch. I need to have tea with me all the time. So relax. I kind of treat it like I've taken a lot of yoga classes in my life too. So I kind of merge that into it. I need to be relaxed. My back needs to be relaxed and my mind needs to be relaxed. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd rather just go clean the studio if I'm feeling a little nervous or annoyed or whatever, right?
Cool.
I would say that's it.
Good question. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Let's hear it.
No, later. After dark.
Now I gotta get a damn ritual.
What kind of tea?
So my wife is into foraging. So all the tea that we have is stuff we forage by our house, Marble Falls. Lemon thyme is my favorite, for sure. And we have so much of it that I just kind of put a lot of it into it, and this thing is like a bomb of lemon thyme, and yeah, I love it. And ginger, I can't live without ginger. I'm saying like in everything, in all my teas, all the time. I chew ginger, which at first it used to make me cry, and now it doesn't.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why does the clay look like it's blue on the counter?
I think the whole thing looks blue.
Yeah.
You're picking up my
Radiating
shirt.
off the shirt.
Probably,
Yeah.
the fluorescence, yeah.
It's a cool color.
It's your
And
aura.
it's porcelain,
It
so
doesn't look like it there.
very bright white.
I have a question for my students. Yeah, you said you started off like volunteering and here in Austin. When do you think is a good time for my students to start getting out there and finding their way into some ceramic studios? And,
I would say as soon as possible.
yeah, and then paid versus unpaid is always a big question that they have for me.
For me, I had to do unpaid for a long time because a lot of studios were just not that profitable. They're also not looking to hire strangers. So if you can do it unpaid, you can get in there, you know? And nobody's doing you a favor. So.
And in your experience, like when you did that, was it for a trade of like studio access?
Firing my work, yes. It always was that. And that's where I did extract, you know, value and profit from. I would get to fire my work at Sunset Canyon and then sell it wherever I could, whenever I could.
Just kind of curious, what is the exchange actually, like how much firing do you, like in your case?
I at first very restricted, right? But if they get to know you and, you know, that's inevitable, you become friends, then almost unrestricted, especially when you become the kiln loader. When you become, you have final say on everything. And it's a hard job. And it's a hard job that nobody wants to do, but it's by far the job where you learn what everybody's doing and their results. You can teach people about their own work just based on you are firing their work, you know? You learn a lot from loading and unloading kilns as long as you have a keen eye and you pay attention to what they're doing. And a good instructor, which John Vela, the owner of Sunset right now, you know, you can say hi to him and not learn something about ceramics. So,
Where would you say is like the best place around here to try to sell ceramics?
that's what I'm saying, where the best place for me might not be the best place for you. I can definitely give you some more advice and point you to like some places like Austin Flea. I worked with them for a long time at just selling out of parking lots. And you know, there's some good ones, some bad ones, but you just kind of have to try it, you know? I feel like not just your pottery really matters, but also who you are. People a lot of times are buying you, they're not buying your pottery. Sometimes they could care less what your pottery looks like, but you know, your vibe goes a long way. So try to get in everywhere. And the first, you know, try it a few times before you give up on it.
Or do it in your front yard.
Yes, I actually lived.
Neighbors.
I actually lived up north on McNeil area. I lived on Potter's Trail. For a while, I used to have garage sales, and at first it was just a garage sale, but then I put it my seconds, and my seconds sold because I was just giving them away. And then I put a little bit more and a little bit more, and then before I knew it, every weekend I was doing a pottery sale. And then somebody passed by and was neighborhood watch, or like, this is not a garage sale. You're selling product here. And then the person I was renting from said, hey, HOA said, how dare you make money? As if I was even making money. But,
Don't live in HOAs.
yeah.
Those are nice.
Any other questions, or maybe I'll get started?
How much clay are we working with today?
I don't know. When you throw up the hump, you just put a big hump in there, really. I know I'm not producing today, so I kind of cut about a third of the 25 pounds. Usually when I'm producing, I'll just throw the whole pug on there and try to get through the whole thing. Right,
And
in
do you
one
have to
session.
like do the wedging? I always want to call it kneading
Yes.
bread. The other thing that you do this too, but
Yes, I wedged this one at home for a good 10-15 minutes on top of plaster slab. So it's definitely a lot firmer than it was when it came out of the bag. That's something I have to do, especially off the hump. The clay gets really soft. That's why I have my best friend here too, to make sure that I can use even the last piece kind of thing.
Do you use spiral wedge?
I think so. Yeah, like I think people call it a ram's horn. I usually do that with larger pieces of clay, when it's a pound of clay, sometimes I just kind of do this like twist thing against the table. But when it's a bigger piece, yeah, it ends up looking that way. Anything else? No? All right, let's get started. I was thinking I'm gonna start with the smallest things, the little mushrooms. One of my favorite things to make because it brings money. They're very efficient, and you'd be surprised how many people in Austin, Texas have fairy gardens. And they'll buy all of them. It's great.
Or like mushrooms.
Yeah, mushrooms.
Botanical garden is a fairy trail.
Your garden.
There you go.
Like, every year,
Make a little
they'll
door.
do fairy gardens
Yes.
in the botanical
Some
garden.
mushrooms.
Yeah,
some
so that
berries,
must
some
be it.
trolls,
There's a community.
some moss.
All right, so I'll start with the mushroom.
Everybody likes to start with mushrooms.
We did tonight.
And then you just center at the top, right? You're not
Yeah.
centering the whole thing.
So yeah, if you have any questions while I'm doing it, feel free. Yeah, I only need to center the top.
What's your best trick for centering?
What I tell my students all the time is stop pushing with your muscles and push with your body weight. Really. And I think that becomes more apparent as you start throwing bigger and bigger pieces. At first, you can muscle it in pretty easily, but when it's a big chunk of clay, no. I guess you'd have to be quite strong. But if you can lean into it and use like your balance, you can center any size piece of clay. I think these mushrooms I throw facing up, yeah. I also make a version of that mushroom that's actually a little pipe, and I throw those upside down. I'll show you. But first I'll make one of these, which they're just little decorative mushrooms. And I used to make these for my mom, also for her, planters as little totems. Cut it off. Speed it.
Where in Colombia are you from?
Cali, Colombia. Which people from Cali, Colombia say it should be the real capital of Colombia. It's where all kind of like the history is.
So what do you sell a mushroom for?
One, $10 to $15, or usually I'll do a bundle deal kind of thing. And most people take the bundle deal.
Or nobody wants to eat just one mushroom.
They're pretty easy to remove. So first one. So again, that's kind of like the simpler form of it. Throw it facing up, and I'll do one upside down, which these will sell more for like $45. And I'll sell these out of smoke shops. Oh, started doing it right side up.
Close your eyes, students. I always say no ashtrays, no pipes. Like your parents get your intuition for ashtrays.
I had the same rules in college too, but I used to get away with firing it inside other things. Trick, guys.
But Tess, how do you, no, but Tess, like, okay, I made a rule that if it looked like a sculpture, if it was if you could fool me,
Yeah.
then you can definitely fool the deed, so, like, those are video games, so I've been very sculptural.
Because it's art at that point.
That's right.
Plausible deniability.
Too much water. And then these I finish the top later on when it's a little harder. And then I put a skewer through the inside so it has a tunnel. Next, maybe I'll make one of the ashtrays or incense burners. Those are also fun, and it's a shape that I make on the hump. And I also throw it upside down.
Like little glass bits you put in pieces.
He has that.
Yeah.
It's definitely my favorite clay. Almost everything I make is porcelain unless it's because I'm making it at a studio where I'm working at. I work at Austin Pottery, and there I use B-Mix sometimes or Dillo. Because they're porcelain I have to pay for. And I'll also finish the shape once they're a little more leather hard. Also, if anyone wants to come closer, I feel more comfortable that way also. You back there, feel free to pull up a chair behind me. I don't mind at all. And then a little bit more complicated, we'll move into maybe one of the mini pots. Those also do pretty well. Lots of people collecting them, and you can sell them at a lower price point than the bigger pots, so they're great. For those, I gotta center a little more. Gotta kick up the speed.
Do you have a favorite tool that you use?
Yes, at home I have a couple of tools that I won't even bring out of my studio. But it's only because someone gave them to me, kind of thing. Yeah, one is like a sculpting tool and one is a trimming tool that I just keep sharpening. So for no like real reason other than, you know, it was a gift.
How often do you change your mind in mid-throw?
When I'm doing these, I try not to really have a goal unless I'm making like, you know, for a distributor or someone that has ordered them, and just play around. So right now I really don't know, kind of just letting it happen. And I just realized I didn't bring a needle tool with me. Could I have a needle tool? I'll have to cut part of this off. A little softer. Usually I dry the clay a little bit more. What a torch is great for. When you throw very thin walls, they just fall apart so quickly. You gotta have either firm clay or that torch right next to you.
No.
Oh, thank you.
So did you do anything special to avoid any S cracks, or is it not really a problem?
Yes. Try to compress a lot. Try to leave it a little thicker than you need, really. But also, I don't make a lot of like cups out of the hum. I make more of like these kind of things, and the S cracks have never been an issue. Because when you squeeze it, it kind of gets compressed. And here we'll shape it a little bit better.
Is the key to do as much as you can to avoid trimming it while you're pulling from the hump?
Yeah, I do no trimming at all off the hump. I try to do almost no trimming unless I'm throwing up something over 4 or 5 pounds, really. So you'll see when I'm done with this, it's ready to go. Even if it doesn't look like it yet.
Why metal over rubber there?
I've gotten used to the metal, honestly, but when I use rubber, it works quite well too. I do think wood, there are like slight differences, but I think I could get away with either. So I would say try to use all of them. And I just keep looking at the shape until I see something I like. I do that, can I borrow a brush too?
A big or small?
Small. That's great, thank you. I like adding part of the glaze when it's greenware, when it's wet. So a lot of people think that this is underglaze, but it's not. I watched a documentary a long time ago with a potter that used raw glazing in all his pottery. And it was just like mind-blowing, because he would only fire it once. I tried doing it and it was definitely not easy. You kind of have to adjust and find the right clay. Things blew up, things bloated. But if you work with it for a while, you learn that you can bisque fire glaze. And when you bisque fire glaze, the second glaze you put on top doesn't marry that glaze. They kind of stay separate. So you can put detail under glaze by bisque firing that first glaze, right? So if I put another glaze over this, that blue is more likely to stay exactly where it is. You can put a purple. So all the lines you see under there have been bisque fired on the pottery.
I saw somebody the other day talking about how for porcelain, if you bisque fire it to cone 010, it's really delicate, but it will actually absorb the glaze better, and they'll become basically one.
010?
010 for the bisque fire, and then you dip it in the glaze and it will really soak up the glaze. And then the porcelain and the glaze actually really, really bond.
Interesting.
I'm gonna try it next time I have to do anything with porcelain.
Yeah. I have to think about that.
We used to do OA at the school.
Yeah, they said it really low, especially with the porcelain. It's a weird older couple.
That was Tom.
What's that?
That was Tom Coleman?
I don't know. With a woman?
Yeah. Amy Fine.
Okay. Yeah, they were talking over each other. It was really kind of funny. They were so excited. It was cute. But I'd never heard that before.
I've never heard that either. This potter, I forget his name actually, but he explained that, you know, it makes it a little harder in the sense that he had to kind of reformulate all his glazes and things like that. But also he had to learn to make things in a way where he could hold them and still dip them without breaking them. Because it's greenware. And he had incredibly large vases. I just thought, like, how did he not break that? But I guess with practice, right? So I've done some, like my planters, I can raw glaze and do once fire. But things that are a little too detailed, I don't, because sometimes they blow. Cone 5 porcelain has been the best one for that. But I wouldn't go make a teapot that I spend a lot of time on and I care about, because they become non-functional. So these I throw with, you see the foot, and then below the foot, it's a little tray. And I cut below the tray. And then the tray is just to help me stick it down. And I cut the tray out once it's leather hard. And I use the same tool to cut it out. Let's see, what next? I also, they don't sell at all. So if I can give you some advice as a potter, don't make goblets. I think they were just a thing of the past, I don't know. But you can make the daintiest, most beautiful goblets off the hump. So I make them in 2 pieces. And then I've started making these mini ones, and I think maybe the price point are just a little bit different. Those do a little bit better. So make a decent bit of the mini goblets or copitas. I think I'll make one of those.
It's called a wine glass.
Yeah, maybe at the Ren Fair, that's true.
Dude, Ren Fair, those people
About
don't
to say
need
that.
Yes, for a
Oh,
goblet.
yeah, and they'll walk around with them at Ren Fair drinking out of them. Make them big enough, we'll fill them up with beer.
Immediately part of the costume, yeah.
Just give a couple to some winches.
That's what I used to do.
Gotta have a loop so you can hook it on your belt though.
What?
A little loop on it so you can hook it on your belt, carry it around.
Cosplay.
Right.
And yeah, if you're making something you don't want to have an S crack at the bottom, just make sure you don't carry any water down there. You're compressing a decent bit. And then over time, the S cracks go away. Every now and then one will pop up again, but I think it's just been over time. I also make sure you're throwing it fast enough, right? If you take a little too long, that clay's just gonna have issues.
When you say don't carry water, you mean throughout the throwing?
Yeah, like you know how it can pool in there? Don't
So you're
let
drying
that
it
happen.
frequently?
Yeah, and then I'll use slip on the wall rather than pooling water down there.
Okay.
I'm not a wheel thrower person, so this question probably, who knows if it'll make sense, but it seems like throwing off the hump, you're starting from the, like, design wise, you're imagining it from the top down rather than from the bottom up. Does that change how you approach different things?
I haven't thought about it, but yes, that is true. You do start from the top and kind of work your way down.
What do you mean, little to big?
No, it's like he's starting at the very top of the goblet or whatever, rather than pulling from the bottom up to shape it, he's pulling
Yeah.
it down,
Okay.
kind of.
What makes you decide if you throw them upside down or not?
The shape, does it work? Is it giving me some kind of edge, really? So the two mushrooms, right? The little ones are a lower price point. If I throw them facing up, they require less time, little work. It just makes sense. The other one is a little bit higher price point, so I can spend a little bit more time on it. And I have to throw it upside down because the bowl on the other side, don't know if you guys saw it, still hold the marijuana.
Yeah.
No tobacco.
Tea leaves.
That can be shaped much better thrown, and then the top can be easily shaped by hand. So just makes sense for me. This one's taking a bit of a different shape than I usually do, a little taller and straighter. I'm liking that.
So if there's someone who's never thrown off the hump before, can you talk about like why you would choose to do that over individual little pieces?
Definitely, efficiency. Yeah. For a long time, I tried to throw off the hump and I couldn't throw a single thing off the hump. So it definitely comes with a lot of practice. But once you have it down, once you get into the flow, nothing can match it really. And I can't throw very big pieces off the hump, but I've seen people throw full size, like dinner set things off the hump, which is just, I'll get there, right? I also love that off the hump I can reach below the bat, right? I'm not stuck here, I can come below. So it makes a big difference.
It'd be hard to center one of those little mushrooms.
Well, it's fun, just making a bunch of little teeny tiny pots. It's so fun.
It is. And I've met some really interesting people because of the tiny pots, like, you know, a lot of collectors, but my favorite sell that came from making little pots. One time this guy like destroyed my whole setup. He touched every single mini pot, and I'll carry like 100 of them sometimes. And just like, I was like, oh my God, sometimes customers will do that. They'll touch everything and they walk away. But he had been around for so long, it's like, okay, he better take at least a few. What is he doing? And then he ended up taking 16, and by far the more expensive ones that I have, which can be up to $85 a piece, depending on how much detail I put into it. And I was like, what? Do you have a collection? I've never met a collector that buys that many, so I wanted to ask. And he's like, oh no, I have a feather collection. And these are the best stands I've ever seen for my feathers. So he took all the ones that were skinny on top, and it was just a little stand for his feathers. I asked him, like, feathers? And he's like, yeah, I have feathers that are priceless, whatever that is. So.
There you go.
Something for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truly.
And you end up meeting a lot of people like that, and you realize like the sale happens for such like specific reasons that you kind of learn that it's a match made in heaven almost every time. And of course, there are other people that are just like, oh, I'm looking for a gift. Oh, that's cute. I'll get it. I don't really particularly like those sales, but you'll have people that are like, oh my God, I don't have the money for this. But this reminds me of when I was studying abroad in Japan. They'll call their dad, oh, can you please send me that money? Oh, the Venmo. And they'll buy a 400 plus teapot, even though they definitely cannot afford it. And they tell you why, and you're just like, whoa, so you had to go to Japan and spend a couple years over there, then find this one teapot that you connect with, and then spend that much money. It's really interesting. And a lot of the lines that I do on the wheel, like this, I've always wanted to preserve the throwing lines, which most people trim them off. But after working at Sunset for so long, I've learned to throw things without having to trim them at all, because they only give you exactly the amount of clay that you need, and you don't really get to trim. So I realized like, oh, I can leave the throwing lines on there. And after doing it over and over, I realized like, I also play a lot of music, so I play instruments. It's recording your speed. You can stamp rhythm into them too. Something this little, not so much, but some of like the bigger vases, I'll be listening to a song and I go to the beat, and it records that sound, and it records up the sound, it records that pattern, and it's become kind of like a look that I like on my stuff. And it's all just chasing the throwing lines. I don't know why, I've always just wanted to preserve them. If you notice, I always have the sponge on the same track as where I'm applying the pressure. That is to keep it really detailed. Without the sponge, it tends to get kind of messy. But the sponge kind of smooths everything over. Keeps it really clean. then the tray, I usually can afford to make it really messy, really thick, because I plan on cutting that part. I also really like this kind of foot, because I like to take a lot of risk with glaze, but a lot of it, I love glazes that are, I don't have any here. Oh, there's one little vase you might be able to see, the little white one. It's actually a crystalline glaze. I don't do a crystalline fire, so it runs like crazy. But if I have a glaze catching foot, it catches all of it. So I can get away with firing crystalline glazes alongside my other glazes. And I don't have to worry about the glaze spilling over. This guy. And maybe we can do one a little bit bigger, which will go into like the bubbler size or the little chimeneas that need to be big enough to put a little candle in there. Where did my sponges go?
So I'm guessing that when you smush the tray onto the wearboard, it's so that it will over.
Yeah, so I can take it in the car.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. And I have a nice little container where I just cover it up, and then tomorrow morning they'll be soft leather hard. I can pick them up and cut them up, and finish them up.
For pieces like your flower ashtrays, do you get like nervous when you're trying to do the details on them?
You mean the ones that I shape?
Yeah, like
little
after
trays? Yeah, so those I have to do actually, I won't be able to do that with this, because we'll do it tomorrow and it'll be leather hard, and any folding or bending that I do is just gonna introduce a crack. It's porcelain also. So when I make them at home, I take them at this stage and then go ahead and shape them. And I have made so many of these that I just don't run out of shapes. You just play around, triangles, squares, bigger, smaller, fold in, fold out. You kind of don't run out of these. And also, they sell pretty well because they're efficient enough. I can sell those at 25 bucks, and I can still squeeze profit out of that. Although prices have been going up so much that I've been thinking about upping my prices a little bit on those too. But I hate doing that because I know every time I raise the prices, all I'm doing is selling to a different crowd. And again, my favorite sell goes to the person that actually enjoys it and not just, oh, I can afford that. And I've had people walk into my booth and say, you could buy everything in here.
Ew.
And then they walk out.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
It's not for them.
right. Or just like, here's my card, I want this, this, and that, and it's like, really? I wanted to go to the person that is gonna appreciate it, right? So I try to keep my prices low, just because I know what I would buy. And I'm like, you know, if I can see myself buying it, that's where I want to sell it at. Not for everything. My teapots, I think that's the main thing I really love making. Teapots. If I had to make one thing, it would be just teapots all day, every day. But they don't sell, right? At least not easily, because I put a lot of time into them. So I put them at a certain price point, and I sell maybe 3 to 4 sets of them. So 3 to 4 teapots a year, maybe. But I wish I could make a lot more of them. What sells? The ashtray. Okay. Centered enough.
back from getting into much pain or like getting strained?
Remember to breathe and remember to support it. If you notice, the last thing I want to do is lift up my elbows, right? If I'm here, I'm gonna have back pain. If I'm here, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I make something tall enough and I leave the comfort of the floor, everything in me screams. Pain, definitely, in just a lack of skill. Like, oh my God, all of a sudden everything sucks. Your arms are not supported. If I could create scaffolding so that I could throw and support my arms, I would. So just make sure your arms are down and relax your back. Because I did for a long time, like tense my back. I realized like I could just relax it. Take a deep breath. Right now I'm not doing that as much because I'm nervous. You guys are watching me, but usually I'm pretty relaxed. Music, oh my God. I cannot throw without good music. I think that's what's making me nervous right now. The voices in my head are making noise. And music shuts them up. You gotta put the stuff you like and put it loud enough.
We could sing for you.
Yeah, speaker,
What's your go-to?
I like a lot of everything, honestly. But when I'm at home, I listen to like old school Colombian, like salsa. That stuff gets to the core, right? And it just immediately shuts off everything.
That's me. Put on Latin jazz, I'm good.
Love that.
Oh, brother.
But sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna put some of that hardcore Cali rap, you know, Tupac, and just go at it. And before I moved to Austin, I don't know if it's just the conditioning in California, but I used to say, oh, everything, I just don't like country. And now I say everything, I specifically love country. There is some really good country music out there. And I didn't feel it until I started dancing to it. Two-stepping, Zydeco, all these other things, live music. You just don't hear that. So you think country pop is what it is, but so yeah, sometimes even country music, damn, that sounds so good.
Pre-1980s country. Really good country music.
So first, I just make sure I make a nice little cylinder. Oh, too much water in there. And these, it's okay if they get a little S-crack on the inside because I flood them with glass on the inside. And also the foot is nice and thick and I choke it in, so if you see those, there's plenty of space in there.
So where this glass, is that frit or is that like pebbles?
All of it. I buy frit more for like the teapans and when I'm actually designing with the glass, so like I can actually get the glass to do certain things. And frit is really good for that because it's already crushed and it works really well. But I wish I would have brought it. I have some pieces that I've kept where I use borosilica because I've worked with a distributor that sells to smoke shops. And sometimes she'll just have a broken bong and like, can you use this? Yeah, I'll take that and then I crush it up and throw it in there. And borosilica is amazing. It doesn't crack as much. So sometimes you can get that glass to come out food safe, right? not that I would put it in something for food, but there is no creasing at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the really clear, hard glass?
Yeah, borosilica.
Yeah.
The stuff that they use for, you know, actually sculpting
Yeah.
bones and stuff. Very expensive. I wouldn't use it unless it's for free. I also have some friends that are glass artists, so somehow they always have a lot of waste glass and give it to me. But also if I'm at Hobby Lobby and I'm like, oh my God, they got purple glass. and it's this price. I go to the glass shop and look at the glass shop and I'm like, how much for 1 ounce of purple glass? And so it just depends. If I walk into Hobby Lobby and I see purple glass and it's well priced, I'm taking all of it. Pink glasses, that would be like a find. It's happened before, but it's rare.
You fired all the way up to
Cone 10.
take it all away.
Yeah, I can show you some of my favorite pieces that are Cone 10. I make these jars that have a really big lid, so it creates a really good display for glass. Just incredible what you can do with glass. The translucency and the level of color, I don't think glaze will ever achieve. So you can only use glass.
Probably find stuff like that at garage sales.
I was gonna say like depression glass from
Definitely.
antique stores.
Oh, hate to be destroyed by stuff.
Here, I'll make sure I reinforce this bottom before I do too much work up here. Otherwise, again, I'm throwing them thin enough that if I do a little bit of pressure work up here, it gets out of center very easily. So I secure it a little bit and then work on the top. The only thing about working with glass,
Overglaze?
and especially, what's that?
I said, when you're using the glass, do you put that over the glaze or in place of glaze?
So I've done both, and you get all kinds of results. By far the best ones, the ones that are just like, oh my God, I just created a universe in here, have had glaze, and it just by pure luck, I try it again, and I don't know, it just doesn't work exactly the same. And then the stuff that I have a little bit more control over, it's Fritz or some of the simpler glass, and I try not to have glaze underneath. Because the glaze can usually make it a little bit cloudy, and I'm going after the translucency after all. So on those ashtrays you see there, or incense burners, or ring dishes, whatever you want to call them, I got them. I've removed the glaze from underneath the glass, so it's just a pure glass, and it's a very predictable situation. And working with glass, the only thing is that you gotta be ready to lose it. I've made a lot of beautiful, beautiful jars, beautiful lids on teapots, and the loss rate is pretty high. I remember I did one fire where I wanted these really nice jars, and I made 8 of them, and they were, large, a lot of work, detail, and I think I lost, I think I got like 3 of them out of it that were flawless. The ratio of how much glass you have in there to the lid, I know glass artists that explained to me that they have a different shrinking rate when they're cooling, so you want to have kind of like 50-50, and at the end of the day you are eyeballing it, right? At least to me, I haven't found a way to like make sure I have 50% clay, 50, so I kind of eyeball it, and I've gotten better over the years to kind of guesstimate what I need so that I can cover it fully, and my goal is to have it nice and deep for translucency, so I usually go overboard. So yeah, very.
So how do they fail? What happens?
They crack.
Ah.
They crack, and they can crack like after you open them, they come out beautiful, and then you're like cleaning them and then clink, or they can crack, sometime when it was already cooling, or way worse, they crack at top heat, and then you have a real shitstorm. Like you lose shelves, other pieces, the glass runs like water, and I swear it like crawls up other things somehow. Yeah, it's horrible, but it's because I've put a decent bit of glass, very ambitious. So like now if I do one of those, I tend to put a plate under it, but then I'm firing an extra plate, I still might lose it. It's extra work. I still might lose it, and
Have you used the fire sheets? Yeah, like, it's like this, then, I have some here.
show me what that is. 'cause
Yeah, it's like this,
Shelf paper?
it's like shelf paper, but it's specifically for glass and high heat.
What? I'm learning things every day, always.
Yeah, I was messing around with glass that I didn't know what it was in grad school, and my professor put me onto it.
What?
Yeah.
I'd
But
like to check
for
that out.
My students, like, no, you may not put glass in it.
Yeah, it's fair.
It just turns into ash, doesn't it?
But once you have your own kiln, you can mess it all up.
Maybe in the test.
But does that melt to lower temperature?
Yes, it definitely does. And I think that's why if your piece cracks while it's still going up in temperature, that glass it's unbelievable how far it'll crawl out. Because, you know, if it hits the temperature for the clay, the glass, I think it's just,
It's just
you know,
molten. It's just running.
flooding everywhere, yeah.
So,
Like water.
I guess that you're trying to just do everything in one fire, but you can't just, like, leave that part naked without glaze and then fire it to full and then do the glass later?
I actually have talked to a friend of mine that does glass firings, and I am gonna be making some pieces that then she's gonna fire to the glass temperature. We did a test run with one piece that was glaze. I just put it in her kiln and the glazes changed color. I didn't realize that even a high fire glaze at a decently low temperature for glass, this rutile blue actually turned this like horrible yellow. So unexpected. If I'm going for horrible yellow, I use red. But I wanted that rutile blue, and it, yeah,
You were firing it at a higher temperature? Or?
at a glass temperature. So it was kind of like bisqueware temperature.
That's wild.
Mhm.
You would think it would.
I thought it wouldn't do anything to the glaze. It did.
Does
It
glass
turned
have
it
like
horrible yellow.
off-gassing or something? Are there like other chemicals in it?
She did have other things in there,
Hmm.
other glass pieces, and she just kind of was like, okay, let's put it on the side and see what happens. And
Who knows?
that's what happened. The glaze
Mysteries.
changed completely.
Well, 'cause there is glass in glaze,
Right.
so makes sense.
Honestly,
Are you doing
the
the firings in an electric kiln, or is it?
my stuff, it's all electric kiln at home. But I fire a lot of other things, you know, at Austin Pottery, other studios that work that. So I'll have some pieces on here are actually not from my kiln. 2 pieces. These 2 coppery. Those are actually cone 6. I fired a cone 8. And I fired a cone 8 because I've just messed around so much and found that like at cone 8, I get this awesome purple to look just the way I wanted to, and I just adjusted everything for that, so. Right.
With what kind of glaze? What kind of glaze are you using? Like your purple, for instance?
It's actually just a translucent glaze, and I put what do you call it?
Mason stains?
Not a mason stain. They call it like an encapsulated stain from U.S. Pigments. Yeah, and they're specifically for high fire. You have to put an awful lot of it. You know, it's like 8% of that instead of like 1 to 2%. So it gets pricey, but
So you put that in clear glaze?
yeah, in a clear glaze.
Do you have a way that you're tracking all your finished work in multiple kilns, or are you just looking for things that are finished that look like yours?
I'm not sure if I understand.
You know, if you're firing at home, if you're firing at Austin Pottery and Sunset, like, do you keep track of like which pieces you have where? And
Yes, I mean, everything I fire at home, of course, is at home, and anything I fire anywhere else is so special that
you
I
just
don't
see
fire.
that looks like mine. You're not like going, I have 8 pieces, let me look for them.
No. That's always been pretty easy. Or like if I miss it, I know where it gets placed, or somebody's just like, hey, your piece is over here. But yeah, when I fire at other studios, that's usually when I'm most excited because it's the most like, you know, I don't know the glazes that intimately. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm taking a little or something new. So yeah, I'm usually so excited about it. I know where it is.
Okay.
I'm gonna dry it a little bit at the shoulder, so I could feel that it was getting a little soft.
When you torch the bottom, does that mess up when you're pulling up the next piece from the hump?
No, I just make sure that if you notice when I was torching the bottom, or when I was torching the shoulder, this area, it's like got plenty of slip, so it stays pretty wet. And it takes a while before the water kind of rebalances, so it stays firm while I'm working on this. But if I take a long time or a break, I might have to torch it again because it kind of gets soft again. And usually I have a lot more slip to work with, but I think since I'm taking a little bit longer, I'm not getting as much slip. And it's drying a little bit faster. And you mainly want to make sure, especially when it gets really thin and small, you do not hit any friction at all, right? So just constantly adding water and feeling for any kind of dryness. Because if you hit any friction, it's just like a car crash when it's so thin. Some of the questions you sent on the email, I was actually thinking about. If I remember correctly, inspiration or motivation or something.
Yeah, I'm always interested in that.
For me, it's definitely nature. I have to go on like hikes and walks. So I feel like I recharge, you know, in water, in dirt. On trees. I love climbing trees still. And then I come home to the studio just like eager to get stuff done. And then something else that kind of comes up all the time with students is creativity. Like where do you find creativity? And I'll tell you what my teacher told me, and I think it's true, in other people. You see something you like, copy it, do it, you know? Just like music, you're learning how to play what someone else is doing. You copy enough things, I mean, I believe that being an artist is just having an opinion, right? Oh, you did that, let me try it. Oh, you know what, I can do it a little bit better. Why? Because I like this color, or I like that angle, or I'm limited to, I can't throw that big, so I'm stuck making them this small, or, you know, whatever it is. You're so unique, you will never make what someone else is making. We were just talking about that for Clayfest. How many artists in one place and not one person has something that looks similar, right? So, and it's not that they're all really creative. I think we learned off each other, and no matter what you do, your person's gonna come out. So copy. That's where my creativity comes from. Whatever I see that I like, I try it out. And I have encountered some people that say like, oh my God, like that's copying or this and that. And I'm like, what class did you take where you didn't copy someone? Like that is learning.
It's a freaking vase, right?
And as long as you're not Jeff Bezos, right? And you can make it yourself, you're making it yourself, it is your work. I don't care. Anybody can copy me, and if they're more successful than me, I'm gonna say, hey, let's team up, because you know, what's up? We could do two. Yeah, I feel like the key to being creative is just not being afraid to do what you like, what you see other people do. And if you're wondering why am I adding water to it now, it's because the throwing lines only happen with slip, right? So if it's dried a little bit, I'm not getting any throwing lines on there. So I have to put that slip back on and get a nice slippery surface before I can try to do what I'm gonna do next. Also, kind of a shape I don't usually throw. A little more boxy. Same with this one.
The absence of music.
Yeah, that's really messing with me. When I walk into Austin Pottery, the first thing I do is turn the music on. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, this is horrible. When you put the music on, okay. Now I can tackle the day. This is cool.
Is something that you've mixed up, or is it commercial?
Yes. I make most of my glazes now. Nothing special, just glazy.org kind of thing, and then mess around with it. I believe this is the Old Forge formula. I think we have Old Forge formulas too. And then a Nazarene blue stain. But I forget the percentage, and I'm usually messing around with the percentage, changing it a little bit. And then if I find something I really like, I'll stick with it.
Yeah, is mostly the blue used for the bisque fired glaze?
Yes and no. Yes for production, because it works really well. It comes out under everything, right? I guess that cobalt is very dominant. So I can put any of my other glazes and you can see it. Where some of them kind of disappear. But not when I'm having fun. When I'm having fun, anything goes, really. I've even messed around with putting crystalline glazes in this particular form, but crystalline glazes don't hold the form after being bisqued. They tend to marry the second glaze and disappear. So the throwing lines kind of go away. If it starts getting a little too out of center, it makes a difference. I'll try to keep them a little more center. Sometimes if it's a little too wide, removing them is a little tricky, so I gotta go cut in there a little bit deeper. That way I don't have an issue cutting it off. I've lost plenty of them.
Besides connecting them to the board, do you have any tricks for moving greenware in your car?
Honestly, just have some good plastic bins and try to stick them down.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. But at the same time, remember that every accident is really an opportunity. It is. Like one of the pieces that I've put the most work into, I could show it to you afterwards if you'd like to see. 6 months worth of work, kid you not. I was transporting it and it fell back. Imagine a full-size bust of a person. His name was Harry Bridges, the creator of the first union in the United States, and inside a vessel, right? And at the time, I don't think I had done any of the detail on the vessel. I was taking it home because at home I can spend a lot more time intimately working on it. This was back in college, and I took a wrong turn. I heard it move, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Right? I showed it to my teacher, and he looked at it, and he was like, "Whoa, Hector, did you see what happened?" He went from being dead to like now he's beyond. Like, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He looked very straight. It was one of my first like sculptures at that scale. And he did look really robotic, just like, he fell back and he tilted his head up. He looked like he was looking into the heavens, and it ended up changing the piece for sure and making it so much better. And I had to do a lot of kind of like cleanup and fixing it, but it really took it to another place. And then so many times that's happened, like you ruin something, and if you just can walk away from it, come back to it, look at it again. That same teacher always said that like, there's nothing new unless you make a mistake. And he also would say like, I learned nothing from other artists, I learned everything from my students. And it's so true. Because students are fucking everything up all the time, and you see things in those mess ups, like, yeah. So don't be afraid to mess things up, like it's part of it. The last thing you should do is feel bad. That just means you gotta do it again and practice some more. How much time do we have?
We've got about, 25?
Okay, I'll do another little pot. I'm gonna try to do a little more detailed one.
Do you have these throwing sticks?
I do. I have some at home. And I'm not too good at them, honestly.
What is that?
Like you stick a stick in there and you use it as a finger, kind of. So I don't use it much, but every now and then, like, it's a must. You just can't reach with your fingers, right? You kind of have to. You know? But my fingers are my tools.
Do you sketch out ideas often?
Certain things. Some teapots, some more of like the, more complicated things. Like, I think the last thing I sketched was Alice in Wonderland bong, which I make a lot of bongs, or I used to.
That's amazing.
Right, that one I sketched, because it was like a whole idea, a clock and the rabbit, mushrooms, all kinds of stuff, so, yeah.
Do you keep lots of notes on which glazes you do? And
Not really. I have kind of like a sketchbook with all like glaze recipes, and there was a time when I first started making my own glazes. I did keep track of stuff, and then I also saw some artists that were like, well, you could be a chemist or you could be an alchemist. I was like, oh, okay, I like that. And alchemy's been the way, because I don't know, I hear everything that John Vela tells me, like, oh, at this temperature, the crystals do this and that. And I'm like, sure, man, I believe you. But it's more trial and error, right? Mm-hmm. Mess up a whole lot of things along the way. I'm trying to decide if I should cut it off now or after I shape it, because I know once I shape it, it might come a little bit out of center again. But that's okay. And if you're ever having trouble cutting things, remember, don't go into it perpendicularly. That's a crash. You merge into it. Right? So you point your tool in the same direction the clay's going, but also tilt it up a little bit. It makes a big difference for tiny little things. Really, once I started tilting it up, it made a big difference.
I've been messing that up a lot recently. That was perfect tip. Thank you.
Sure. And you guys have been doing so good in class, it's crazy. And that bowl I saw like last week, what? Like your second class? Yeah. I have to keep adding a little bit of water, because even just the friction from such a thin tool that you think would carry almost no friction, right? It's enough for a very thin spot, so I gotta keep adding water. I don't want to mess it up. Gets there. Got a little bit of glaze to it now.
How long do those tanks last you?
The
gas
Propane tanks.
I bought a thing that refills them, and yeah, so I've had the same tank for a while. Just have one big tank at home, and I don't know how long it's lasted, because I used it also for a raku kiln or raku firing, and there was still more gas left in there, and I've had that one for like a year and a half, so yeah. If you buy one of those little things, like, that's the way to go, because otherwise they're kind of expensive.
What is the thing?
It's like this little tube that has a pressure thing, and then you connect it to the gas, the bigger tanks that they sell, and then you just connect it to this, connect it to the gas, you open a valve, and then you watch the pressure move, and then it refills it. It's actually really simple.
And it has a little relief in it at the top of it, right? When it's done. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, how do you know when it's full?
Yeah, the pressure thing goes into the red zone, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll start squirting out the top or something.
And as soon as it gets anywhere near the red zone, I'm like, it's gonna blow, so I stop. I don't think I ever fill it up to the max kind of thing. But I also, if you notice, I use it sparingly, so. And I don't throw big things very often, unless it's like a commission piece. And yeah, that's kind of rare, so tiny little things is just doing little snaps of it. I think if you throw bigger things, it takes such a long time to dry those that you would be going through a lot of gas. But this dries so quickly.
Are you left-handed?
Yes. I'm left-handed, but I throw going counterclockwise. And I've heard people say that depending on, if you're left-handed or right-handed, and I like to call bullshit on that. Because I've seen so many students say I'm left-handed and they can still throw this way, or I'm right-handed and they can throw this way, or they're confused and they do one part this way, one part that way. I think it's more like when you decide which way you skate. on a skateboard, right? You put this foot in the front or this foot in the front.
You think I'm scared of this guy?
But it's similar, you just feel comfortable. And most people throw counterclockwise, right? Almost everyone throws counterclockwise, and then there's every now and then there's someone that you're like, oh, you're goofy. You throw the opposite way.
Weirdo.
But it doesn't have anything to do with whether you're lefty or righty. Yeah. So I think you should try both. And I've seen a potter that could throw both ways, and he'd get a twist on his piece on purpose, and then like, check this out, spin it the other way, and the twist would just go so perfectly. I've tried it, and I'm stuck throwing one way. The other way, I get like almost dizzy, and super nervous, so I can't. I don't even try. But yep.
So if you don't really trim and your pieces are that little, the second day after you take them out of your damp box, how are you drying them the rest of the way? Or do
Air dry.
you just leave them out after that?
The only thing that I kind of dry a lot slower are sculptural pieces. And I kind of make that distinction with my mugs. I didn't bring any today because I figured let's work off the hump. But I do handles that are like thin and a little bit more complex, I guess. So if I dry them a little too quick with porcelain, I end up losing handles. If I dry them the way they dry them at sunset, which is cover them overnight, and then to be extra careful, maybe even longer, and lightly covered, and they dry really slowly, it helps. And anytime I'm working on a sculpture or something like that, if anything, sometimes I do my best to bring it back. Like I'll put it in a bin, I'll cover it really well, I'll put some wet sponges in there. The Alice in Wonderland piece, like I dried it over the course of like 2 weeks. Really, 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 really slowly, because I had thick pieces to like tiny, tiny little pieces. The glazes, like if I put red on this, you'll really see the blue where it breaks. Now let's finish the foot. So one like this I would sell for 45 at least. Just take a little bit more time with it. Little dry there when I try to come in and adjust. It would have probably taken it more out of center. Oh. See, it catches that friction and
What a drag.
There it is. You just need water for everything. You can't forget the water.
To push the pencil in the right direction.
And that's what messing up is good for, honestly. I've thrown so many out of center and then try to center them and mess them up, and you learn how to fix things if you mess up enough, you know? A little bit of glue down here. Sometimes I even tell my students, and I do a demo where I throw something with a ball of clay that's really out of center. People just obsess about everything being so centered before they can move on. And I'm like, you learn so much from working with wonky, horrible conditions, you know, or like, oh, it needs to be fresh clay. I don't like recycled clay. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing yourself with this favor. The more horrible the clay is, the more you're gonna learn. It feels terrible, but your senses are picking up things you can't really put words to, you know? So difficult conditions, right? Mess around with everything. Okay. We'll dry it, cut it off. Yeah, I think I can. Actually, let me dry it a little more. Can tell it's getting wet. A little too wet still. And I want this one to work out so that I can sell it. Where's my other one?
It's on the left.
A little wet. A little bit of water. And I bend the tool like that so that it kind of cuts a bit of a hole in the inside, and this one actually cut through. Sometimes I try to make them as thin as possible even down there, so sometimes I end up doing that, but it's easy to fix. And with little pots, they work pretty well. Whereas if I try to do this with a bigger pot, you know, it's a nightmare. Put a plug in there. Try to make a bit of a triangle. Really plug it in. Cut it in. And these sometimes, as they dry, or just if I throw them fast enough, they won't be completely flat at the bottom. And you know that drives us crazy, right? Also, a sculptor taught me this. You know, I'm just making sure that it also compresses from the inside a little bit. But with a tiny bit of water. Do you mind if I get a table dirty? This works really well with sculptures, or sometimes when I make trays and they wobble on you and it sucks.
they'll be completely flat.
Only thing is they tend to get stuck, so I'll leave them in there for a while. And as they dry, they'll pop out. All right, any questions, guys? I think I'll call it there for the demo. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer anything I can.
Get a lot of info.